Hello everybody, it's me, Carlos M616, back with another video. Today, right, we're going to be talking about why the book adaptations, the movies of Fahrenheit 451 are such complete garbage, alright? So, let's get started. So, first off, we're going to do some scene-by-scene comparisons, alright? So how does the story start in all of the different, the three different versions that there are? The book, the 60s movie, and the 2018 one. So, of course, you get this iconic line in the book, right? This amazing line. It starts off perfectly with great imagery, everything you could ask for. It starts with, "It was a pleasure to burn. It was a special pleasure to see things eaten, to see things blackened and changed. With the brass nozzle in his fists, with a great python spitting its venomous kerosene upon the world, the blood pounded in his head, and his hands were the hands of some amazing conductor, playing all the symphonies of blazing and burning, to bring down the tatters and charcoal ruins of history." Now, that's a pretty good start of a book, right? Pretty good start of a story. It sounds like pretty, got some imagery there, got so much stuff going on. And so, this part of the video, I'm talking about imagery, all right? And so, the book, as you can tell, has a lot of imagery. It makes it feel epic and just, this great thing that's being done. It was a pleasure to burn, a special pleasure to burn, So, with that said of the book, right? How did the movie start? So the original 1966 movie starts out pretty, it's kind of boring. So basically, it's just these guys, and just kind of looks like they're in a random city. It's a little bit foggy, and then they're just going to a place, and they're looking for books in a place, and they burn them. It looks okay. It's 1966, so they can't really get it going that well. It doesn't feel as epic, but it's alright, I guess. But then how does the 2018 one start? Now, the 2018 movie, it's kind of bad, right? They're both kind of bad, but the 2018 one's maybe a bit worse. But the 2018 one actually starts out pretty decently. It's not as epic. It's not as good. It leans way too more into the social media aspects. It starts out with him with the lighter, Montag with the lighter. I don't know what he's doing. He's looking at it. And then it shows a flashback, kind of. The movie has flashbacks, and they all kind of suck. And then it sets up the social media stuff. It talks about the nine, and how Montag's famous online, and everyone loves his stuff. And then it's him, and he's like with the Captain Beatty. He's boxing, and then they go to a school, and then they teach the kids stuff, and then finally they go and they burn their house, right? And all this stuff. It looks better in the 2018 one. I'll give it that. Like the filming, the cinematography, it's all pretty decent, I think he says the line, "It's a pleasure to burn," but he says it like to hype himself up before he burns books. It's a bit different. It's not as good as the book. So this next scene we're talking about is the scene where Beatty tells Montag that he's going to, that he should stay home because he's sick, right? And in the book, right, basically it's Montag doesn't show up to work, and then he's just talking with Mildred, who Mildred's cut out of the 2018 movie, and she sucks in the 66 movie, so there's that. But also, in the book, they're just talking with Mildred about Clarice. They find out that Clarice is dead, all this stuff going on, and then Beatty just kind of shows up there, all menacingly, like, I kind of know what's going on, but I'm not going to say. There's a lot of foreshadowing in there that is kind of used, because we know that Montag has books, and we're not sure if Beatty knows. It's kind of like hinted at, so that kind of builds up a lot of different tension right there, and it's done really well. It's one of the most tense scenes in the book. So, how was it done in the 60s movie? Montag breaks into Beatty's office. Beatty kind of comes in there, and he's like, "Hey, what's up? I'm not suspicious of you at all, really." Just like one line, and then like Montag collapses, and he's like, "Hey, you should stay home, and you're sick." And he's like, "Okay," and that's the scene, right? it's kind of boring, like the whole entire movie, right? 2018 movie, right? In this one, you hate Beatty because Beatty is a jerk the whole dang time, right? Beatty is just he's a vile man, right? He's just a piece of crap, right? And so it's basically just him at the police station being like, "Hey, go home," and it's kind of scary because you're kind of like he's kind of suspecting that Montag isn't like exactly who he should be, and not as dedicated. But also, Beatty, we see him like write stuff and like write on paper, which I think is forbidden in that universe. So it's like it's confusing where it's like in the book we don't really know if Beatty's like really reading books, but we kind of get it hinted towards. It's more ambiguous, which kind of like creates an element of like tension to it, where it's like, huh, what's going on? Like you do have to like figure this out. In the 2018 movie, he kind of was like he's just a jerk because he's breaking the rules right now, and he's like getting on Montag's butt about him breaking the rules. It's like, bruh. And so the book uses a lot of really good foreshadowing in this to kind of be like, hey, what's gonna go on? And is Beatty kind of figuring out what Montag's doing in the 66 movie? Nothing is really there. And in the 2018 movie, it's kind of there, but it's just not employed good enough. And so now, finally, this last scene we're talking about is gonna be the scene where Montag burns Beatty in the book, right? So basically in the book, the way it's built up to, it's, they drive over to Montag's house. He doesn't really know it's going to be his house till they get there. They find out that Mildred was the one who called the alarm for the firemen. And so they get there, they burn the books, and then Beatty's basically just scolding Montag for what he's doing. He's very disappointed. And then he hears the little wasp, the little AirPod he has in his ear, and that's built up with Faber, who's not even in either of the movies, right? So Faber's talking in there. Beatty hears it. He takes the thing, he crushes it or whatever, and he finds out about, hey, this guy is like really bad, and so he's everything's kind of crumbling down at this point. It's a lot of tension, a lot of suspense, all being kind of relieved here with a lot of just really crazy moments. And then it's Monty holding the flamethrower, and Bay's like, "Hey, just do it, just kill me, man," And then it's this gruesome scene. It's described gruesomely. I'll describe it right here, right? So he's saying, "Hand it over, guy," said Babe with a thick smile. And then, with a shrieking blaze, a jumping, sprawling, gibbering mannequin, no longer human or known, all writhing flame on the lawn as Mustang shot. One continuous pulse of liquid fire on him. There was a hiss, a great mouthful of spittle, banging a red-hot stove, a bubbling and frothing as if salt had been poured over a monstrous black snail to cause a terrible liquefaction and a boiling over of yellow foam, right? It's just described as like this like gruesome, just like of like the flamethrower, right? And this also creates an interesting juxtaposition between the beginning of the book, where it's it's a pleasure to burn, and you'll see things eaten, destroyed. It's like this grand thing compared to like this simple, like the liquid comes out, the kerosene comes out, and then the fire starts, and it's just yellow foam. It's this interesting thing where it's like you really see the change in the way it's described with the imagery, and it's so smart. It's done so well in the book. So how is it done in the movies? Really weird and not great. Not as good, In the 60s movie, right, it's sort of similar situation, right? Mildred, or Linda, as they say in the freaking 60s. They changed her name for some reason in the 66 movie. She rats him out again in this movie. They go, it's like the same situation, right? He burns him. It's actually one of the better scenes of that movie. It actually does look pretty good. But that movie, it always focuses on both movies focus on the books that they're burning, like the titles of the books. Like there'll be like a 1 minute scene of them being like, "Oh, here are the books that are being burned." It's like, that's not the point. It doesn't matter. Like the books are just meant to be just good books that are good literature. Like you don't have to show me them. You don't got to shove it down my throat. Like, come on, right? So that scene is pretty decent, right? I mean, it's not, the imagery's not as good there. I mean, there's also, they cut out the mechanical hound, which Montag fights afterward in the book. In the movie, there's no mechanical hound. He just kind of runs out of there and nobody cares, right? And then in the new movie, right, the 2018 one, he doesn't even burn Beatty. He burns Fireman Douglas, right? Who cares about Fireman Douglas? I don't. I don't even know this guy was in the book. I don't care to check because it's it's Fireman Douglas. He's so they don't burn Beatty. Um, they burn Fireman Douglas, and I guess the scene looks fine. And there's nothing I really noticed about it. Like the imagery was decent, but I think you lose some of just the depth from the book, and that's really getting to ending the video here. That's the main thing. The book has so much more depth, so much more ambiguity. It doesn't describe everything to you, but it describes what's going on. It describes images of what's happening that are interesting, opposed to the movies where, the 60s one has like no art direction. It's very bare bones. Like there are good scenes in it, but it's really boring. But then the 2018 one, it's good at first. Like it's actually a pretty decent story. It's different, but it's pretty decent. And it just takes a left turn into a ditch that's flooded. And it's just, it gets so bad. They introduced that bird, the Omnis, the freaking Omnis. And it's like the DNA inside the bird is a bunch of books, and then where we can get information. And it doesn't make sense. It muddles up the actual meaning of the story. It kind of changes the meaning. It just makes no sense, right? And they, in that movie also, they try to get Clarice as a freaking love interest in the 2018 one. It was awful. The movie looks pretty decent. Sometimes it looks like they're just in like a poor place in town. They aren't even in like the cool sci-fi setting that you kind of imagine that is described in the book. But I feel like neither one just did a great job. They're both just kind of bad movies. Like I don't know. So with that all said, hope you all enjoyed this video. I know I don't know how long it's gonna be. But yeah, I tried. It's pretty late. But yeah, with that said, hope you all enjoyed. I hope to see you all in my next video, baby. Bye!